since but good. So we're recording. So yeah, Sako, good to see you. Garish, thanks for coming. Today's topic is load generation.
Yep.
So we had a wonderful discussion with Kinvolk, specifically Tilo, a little over a week ago. And so in following up on that, I'll bring up the design spec. Garish, you might have been the last one to touch this. So you might be the best one to speak to it. We've got a couple of architecture documents as well.
Right. At a very high level, the two diagrams here, they're just trying to depict like the two models, especially focused around the load generator. So and there is a reason, why I actually kind of tried to showcase this. This was again partly because at that time, when this diagram was drawn, this is probably more than a month old. At the time, when the diagram was drawn, at that time, I had no clue about wrk2, so I was under the assumption that wrk2 could run as a server. So this diagram, actually was drawn under that pretext that wrk2 could work as a separate server, because 4IO could and 4IO can. And so the point I was trying to make with the two diagrams is that the first one is how we started Meshery, where 4IO was actually a separate service in our microservices architecture. But then later, we actually, in order to ease the development, and not to have one extra service, we actually tried to combine them into Meshery. Given that 4IO is actually written in Go, we could just leverage that, which is kind of very easy. I just have to find the right injection points and kind of invoke them, and it works really well with 4IO. So now this is the architecture. The embedded load generator is actually the one we are using today, which is Meshery is actually using this embedded load generator 4IO. Now, if we want to support wrk2, now I was again under the presumption that there could be some kind of a library for wrk2, but looks like there's none. So yeah, that's the reason for the two, and I was just kind of elaborating on the pros and cons of the two in the document mainly. And now moving forward, we're going to be using this architecture, where we are, at least for the near future, we're going to be using the embedded load generator. We're not going the route of moving the load generator out. But either ways, now one of the things is that the changes that are proposed in this document for implementation, the main goal is actually is to kind of eventually in future support both these models, so that if at some point in time we decide to kick out 4IO and any other embedded load generators out and have them run as independent services, we should be able to make the change fairly quickly rather than having to do it in a much more elaborate way. So that's sort of what I try to describe later in this document. Of course, I know there are multiple versions of wrk2, and we are going to be picking one, and of course, the one with the capability to output JSON. So the ask here is actually, you guys can read through it, but yeah. So here the ask is actually. I've tried to put some milestone markers because the way I started working is I've tried to kind of spit out what we would eventually do to actually get the implementation going, and then I try to put some milestone markers. So if you're there, feel free to actually take a look at it. Fundamentally, the first one is I think partly done. Sako already has or figured out the way to actually add a multi-stage process for building wrk2 as part of the the Meshery Docker build, the multi-stage build.
Okay, and are you speaking to the execution?
No, can you go further down?
Oh,
it is actually the execution plan, but then before I kind of put it there, I actually this was more of a scribbling pad for me to then bring content there. But then anyway, so this is kind of like, where we are. So you can see just categorize this like, building packaging and then the implementation mainly, because the building packaging, you pretty much don't have to touch the Go code. But it's the implementation part, like, where you will be touching the Go code. So fundamentally, this part, like, the milestone 0, called it milestone 0 because it's pretty much done. Sako already has like proved that he is able to compile wrk2 and then, like, put it in the Meshery container, put the executable in the container. Now, the question to Sako, hey Sako, like, are we? So I know we spoke to Thilo about, like, this. Or do we have the right version of wrk2 or wrk or wrk2, like, whichever one we are going with the JSON support and keeping fingers crossed, like, with the capability to return all the data points during the execution? Do we have all that, or do we just have the default flavor, which will only return a JSON response with this high-level summary?
So basically, now we'll need to just point the upstream to tile 1, and with JSON formatted, there shouldn't be big changes. And I will need just once again to make sure all is working. But yeah, that should be it. That shouldn't be significant. Basically, changes just update the upstream when in the container doing from the tile version, because as I understood, the tile version also has the JSON already.
Right. I mean, like, that's just like some Lua scripts which are being injected and compiled along with, like, the wrk2 binary is kind of what it is. Now the next part here, actually the implementation, like the first one is actually the POC. The reason why I wanted to I included a POC step is actually that, like, before we started jumping in and, like, making changes, I wanted to ensure that, like, we do have the right things in the right place, working the right way, so that, we can spend more time integrating it with our code, which is the reason why, like, I created a milestone 1, which is actually the initial POC.
Mm-hmm.
So have you done a POC where you're invoking, the wrk from Go code, getting the results, like, in the JSON format or error or whatever situation it is, getting the results back, parsing the output, and putting it in a structure, like a Go struct? Have you done this before?
Before, you mean in the project or similar experience?
No. I mean, for this, in this context.
No,
have you done that?
No, that's the next things.
Okay, gotcha.
I just we'll start from this. That's yeah. That's a thing I need to start with. Yeah.
Excellent. Now there's one thing though.
Yeah.
If you see the comments, if you see the third comment, which, I mean, other than the ones I've included your name, like, I mean, like, you can see FYI periodic.runner results needed at the moment. So that comment is actually an important one. Now this again is going to be based on the question which I'm going to be asking. I think we had a very preliminary discussion in this direction where, now if the wrk version we are using returns high-level summary results, that's going to be a problem, because now the way our system works is that, like, I mean, since again, the other thing is, like, we do have a reasonably tight coupling with Ford.io. So this library, the periodic.runner results, is actually part of Ford.io. Now, the reason, like, why we are using this is actually for two. One, it's just easy. Number one, because we started off with Ford.io, but there is also a number two, which is the results, if they follow this particular structs pattern, like, in the sense the results are like, they kind of stick to this pattern, then we have the UI code, like, which is actually borrowed from Ford.io. Of course, like, now we have made some customizations to it, but there is this Ford.io code which actually takes this result in this format and then does some computation on it, comes up with, like, high-level summaries, and then uses the whole thing to actually chart the data. So it's not like a one thing, like, so essentially I could say that, like, the tight bonding with Ford.io is not in one place, but in two spots. One is in the backend server, the other one is in the UI. So if we want to change that, that's going to be quite some effort, because, we have I mean, it's not like it's spread over all the places. No. It's like, it's just in like, we have 3 points of integration. One is the backend, which returns the result. Now, in the backend, we're not doing any further processing of the result, right? Like, I mean, so Ford.io runs the result, runs the load test, gives back a response. Now, the good thing with the response is that whether it is HTTP or gRPC, both actually stick to this particular type, right? Like, it's both of them, like, stick to run a result. Of course, there is a subtype. There are 2 subtypes. One is a HTTP run a result, and the other one is a gRPC run a result. But the way I'm doing it is, like, if you look at my code, like, you'll see it, like, that, I'm making the result a return, like, of this type, so that whether it is HTTP or gRPC, I don't care. I just send it to the UI, and the UI takes care of it, kind of a thing. You see the point? So, which has been helpful, which has been working well. So that is one point of integration. The other one is, in the UI, we have I have a central JavaScript file, like, which essentially we borrowed from Ford.io, and that's what is doing all the computation. That I mean, you can call that sort of like, I didn't create a component around it, but I'm just using that as a JavaScript library, like list of functions. That main thing is actually used in 2 places. Well, actually one, which is actually the Meshery charting component in the UI. The same Meshery charting component is used in 2 places, one in the performance page and the other one is in the results page. So you can see, like, I mean, it's not hard to make change, because if you change in one, it'll, all the places will get updated. But the only question here, and again, like, this is again another ignorance question partly, is that the wrk2, whether it's the Tilo version or whichever version we're going to continue using, we need to ensure it is getting all the result data points. If not, if it is only summary, then we might have to come up with a different strategy. Because, like I said, I mean, so this is what I try to explain, that if we can make the result from the Ford.io stick to this particular types format, like the periodic.runResults format, because it has all the fields which are important, right? Like, it has all the data points. It has, like, the starting time, the duration, number of threads, number of queries per second, and all that, like, kind of well defined. So which is the other reason why, like, I've been using that, like, because it's kind of well defined. It pretty much covers all the all the interesting factors of running a test, which is the reason why I've been using it. So I'm like, we definitely need a strong reason to move away from it, is kind of my point. So if, for example, like, you are, like, so you I mean, in your POC, you write the Go code, which will run wrk2, the right parameters, and then get the result in JSON format. You kind of, like, unmarshal it into a structure, the Go structure. Now you need to do a mapping from that structure to this periodic.runResults, because, I mean, the structure that's coming from wrk2 is not going to be in this format. So we need to do that mapping. So as part of your POC, I think if you can get it to a point where you can map the data to the periodic.runResults type, I think that'll be a great POC.
So in this case, currently the way it's returning wrk2 is JSON formatted. You think it's not good enough? Yeah, we need to play with Lua script just to make it per request.
Exactly.
That's what we need.
Yeah, I mean, it's just easier to do it at the back end rather than do it in the front end, because if you do it in the front end, we will have to have, like, kind of a parsing logic for every type of load generator, right? Like, I mean, so today is wrk2. Tomorrow, I mean, like, day after, I mean, yesterday was Ford.io. Tomorrow is wrk2. Day after tomorrow, it's going to be, I don't know, Apache Bench. Or the next day, like, it's going to be something else, right? I mean, we might support more, but I think the way it is like the front end. I mean, the direction of my thought is that the front end code for parsing the data and, like, presenting it should be single, should be just one, irrespective of the load generator, is kind of like how I'm seeing it. It's not set on stone, of course. Like, worst case, that will be a way to do it. And I'll tell you another reason why we are doing this, or thinking about, I mean, like, why I am thinking about this. The reason for me to think about this is that, like, that now in Meshery, we have this comparison capabilities, right? You can compare results. So now, when we have this capability to compare results, like, so when it's a Ford.io result and the other one is a Ford.io result, we can easily compare them. But now when it is a Ford.io result and a wrk2 result, unless they have a same pattern, like you cannot compare. It'll be hard for us to compare, or we have to start writing all these custom logic for doing comparisons. I don't like it. It's not extensible, right? Like, I mean, so this is my chain of thought. Again, if you guys have a strong opinion against it, absolutely, I'm definitely, I'll be very happy to hear it and update it. But I mean, this is what I'm projecting here is just my chain of thoughts, like as to, hey, okay, these have been working well. These are set pretty much like it has been working well for many of our existing capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is, like, if you want to now bring in a third component, if we can just plug it in the way things are working, then the rest of all the other things will just work, right? I mean, that's my chain of thought. So
yeah, that's my question is regarding, because for the comparison, do we need to compare the results from the 40 and wrk2? Because it's more we are trying to compare the different measures. That's main.
That is correct. But then, like, so assume this case, like, so a month, assume this. So, August 19th, we did not have wrk2 integration.
Mm-hmm.
So Sacco is going to run a benchmark test on Istio with the with the book info application today. And now in a month, let's say we have the wrk2 embedded, integrated, etc. And like, Sacco is running a wrk2 test on a newer version of Istio with a book info app. How would you? You see the point, right? Like,
I see the point.
I mean, from my perspective, that definitely will be very valuable, because people, it'll be kind of interesting to see the results being comparable, and it'll be good to see them comparable. It's kind of my theory. If we,
from the implementation perspective, we need then a bit also dig into each wrk2 and 40, how they're doing, and like even with, if we start to, let's say, Visual scripting, try to make it as a separate request, there could be still some core changes in the implementation that could make this difference.
Absolutely. Like I said, don't get me wrong. If we have to make changes to get something to work, I'm totally towards it. But my only point, of writing what I've written here is actually to kind of keep them a little bit clean, so that like all the implementation things go in a single place, and rather not being spread out in like 10 places. You see the point? I prefer doing it in the back end and maybe a little in the front end, but like having changes for here, and then now if we have to kind of show a completely different interface for wrk2 results, that is bad. Now the worst part will be, now we also have to write a logic for handling the comparison possibilities, right? You see the point, right? Like, it just keeps going on. It'll be like a snowball. It starts off with something small. Yeah, you know what? Let's just hack it here. It's going to be like a hack. It's like
I see.
That's kind of my theory. Yeah.
So then the first thing we need to do is more going to wrk2 implementation and make sure we can get in JSON per request.
Exactly. I think like during one of our previous discussions, I thought you showed us something like that. You did show like a kind of an output, like where it shows kind of the data for every request or something.
No, it was raw data in JSON format it was giving, but it was still the average and all these.
Oh, I see. Like,
so
just a summarization.
There was more information than normal output, but it wasn't still per request. And in the last call with Tyler, when we were talking, he was also mentioning that kind of coordinator omission, that's first thing, and then JSON, that's good to go. But if you want per request, they didn't have plans. I guess at least he didn't give the commitment for help us on this for per request metrics. So basically we need to just check ourselves the implementation.
Gotcha.
So
Lee, your thoughts, and the other reason is like, I just don't want to talk about milestones 1 and 2. Given that the time is about, we're pretty much like, on top of the hour. let's just talk something like, let's have a sensible argument here or discussion here. We can come back to milestone 1 and 2 after Sako has a decent POC.
Nice. Yeah, I don't, while I could talk through what you'd said, there's nothing more that I would add about the direction that we're headed. I will clarify that there's a point of confusion, I think, between wrk as the first project that's there, a fork of wrk called wrk2. Guillotine is the guy that's referenced there and kind of worked on it. And then Tilo forked off of wrk2, and he added, oh man, it's all written down in the spec. But anyway, that, yeah, we're going to want to, or I thought that Guillotine added coordinated emission, and then and then Tilo added the ability to do it against multiple
endpoints. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, anyway, irrespective, in some respect, that doesn't matter. We're just going to use Tilo's fork, and from there, and I think of the JSON Lua that you had shown working Sako on WRK, we need to see if that same script works on Tilo's fork of WRK2.
So, and then we go for the pass, as Grish was saying, that per request output, yeah, that's before like coming to Meshery, you need just to work on this for the law scripting to a bit to make it per request, and then
that would be that's probably, I think the JavaScript is surmountable. I'm sorry, the JSON is surmountable. The per request is probably the one that becomes a stickler for us, that we really probably do need for it to return in that format. Otherwise, we're looking at some more significant effort in refactoring within Meshery, and then we start to question, like, is this really worth it? Is what WRK2 is going to give us really worth it? The next component, though, if we were ideally we would honor a user's load test results, irrespective of which load generator they used, and they would have a wonderful user experience in that regard. If that was too much work to make those two compatible, then I could see us saying, look, you use one versus the next, and so we just kind of shrug our shoulders. Although I think if we I think that we get that last one for free, comparable results, so long as we're doing the work to make sure that, so long as we've done the work for number 2, which is the per request JSON formatted. So I'm just creating issues while you guys are talking. So we've got the overarching issue, and that's like number 126. It's the one that sort of tracks the fact that we want to add this overall. And then given that Girish has broken it down into different milestones, I've just created 2 new, I'll be creating a GitHub issue for each milestone with checkboxes so that it feels good, so that we actually can do pull requests at the end of each of these.
Yeah, I guess, should it be, Girish, also milestone 0 included there? Then just forget about Meshery, just WRK2, make sure we can add feature to return in per request JSON, and then we come back and continue from the integration with Meshery. Is milestone 1.
Or is that the proof of concept?
Yeah, it'll be the proof of concept. Yeah.
First thing, no Meshery, just WRK2, make sure
right.
per request we can get it.
Yep. That's precise. Yeah, that's essentially the point, which is good. Let's not get into Meshery, because once you step into Meshery, you will start having all these integration challenges.
Yep.
But let's just work with the POC and tune WRK2 the way we want it, get it the way we want it to work, and then now that, okay, hey, cool, we have everything figured out. Okay, let's jump into Meshery and do whatever we want, right? That's kind of the best approach. Yeah. And actually, interestingly.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like, so I think this is kind of what Tilo mentioned. Is about the Lua scripting.
Mm-hmm.
With Lua scripting, I think it gives you a little bit of flexibility, but I don't know how flexible it is. Maybe that'll be another nice thing to actually investigate.
For which part?
The Lua scripting in WRK.
Yeah. So per request, the one we are talking, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
wow. Yeah, this will be sweet actually. I mean, like, looks like it is pretty extendable, like, which is kind of nice.
I will go also through all the PRs they have and stuff in all three repos, like Tilo, Kinvolk, the right one, and see if there was anything already done and see. Yeah, and first thing I will do that one, and if not, then go to code and try to understand and try to do some stuff around and see if we can get that in JSON. Then we may need to, I will probably fork the repo, and just in case, then we need to maintain ours one. At least we can start working on it in our fork, and once we have anything, maybe we can do PR, just if we can get approved by Tyler or something, and then it will be easier to keep, because if they keep adding stuff, it will be hard for us just to.
Actually, so Tila, sorry, Sako, I just sent a link in the Zoom chat. So that actually describes how you can script with Lua. It is actually describing like all these methods. So I think all you have to do is like, you have to maybe create a Lua file, kind of implement the right method and give it to, I mean, like, you don't have to extend wrk2 or whatever Tilo's fork. I mean, I don't think you have to do anything. I think all we need is actually the capability to write Lua scripts, which and then like, I think you can actually then just pass it to WRK at runtime. Like, for example, like, here is a sample command. I mean, again, I don't know the exact details, like, if somebody like, invoking WRK with a Lua script.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So which means you don't have to, like, I mean, like, for the things we are working towards, I don't think, like, we need to do anything, like, with the WRK. I mean, like, we just take Tilo's fork, write some
good
Lua
point.
scripts. Yeah, just write some Lua scripts, and then, like, give it to WRK2 as part of your exec command. Just pass the script. And in which case, like, you might have to bundle the script in the the Meshery container, but I mean, like, no, that's no problem.
Oh, we don't have to during compilation edit. We can just add on runtime.
Yeah, it already has Lua JIT. I think, like, all you need is to give a Lua file, and kaboom, I think it'll just work.
Yeah, would be better option.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just start off with Tilo's WRK, bundle it, and then now with that, like, see if we can, like, write some simple, Lua scripts, and see if we can, like, fine tune the response, fine tune the results, the way we want it. I think the JSON work is pretty much done in a similar fashion. I don't know. It's like, I mean, I'll let you figure that out.
So the Tilo one, the one you send me is Gilten W2, but it's not the one. Yeah, we'll go with Tilo one.
Right. Yeah.
It's just as a reference you gave me that for. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's but that's different. Yeah, from Kimvolk and then Gilten. Is there anything in this guy's one, Gilten one, or do we have anything to do with this WRKT?
I'll make sure that in the design doc it identifies the fact that there are these 3 different versions and what the differences are. I think it might be in the design doc now.
So there is Tyler, Gilten, original one, and Kimvolk. Yeah, that is 4 kind of.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
it's actually there underneath the background. The background section does give you the differences between those.
Okay, so yeah, that's
sweet.
That's good. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, guys. Yeah, let me go through, and I will update you once I can make it on.
Awesome, dude. Feel free to ping us on Slack, like,
Yep. Yeah. Now time is flexible, so yeah, I will just ping you.
Awesome, dude. Awesome.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, if I was gonna get cut. Yeah. See you.
Yeah. See you.
See you, Saka.
Have a nice day.
Yeah. Bye.
All right.
Bye.